A maid's son, saving a millionaire's daughter, was the last thing anyone ever expected. But on one stormy night in California, a young boy named Jake did something so brave, so powerful, that every person standing near the billionaire CEO's mansion stopped in shock. A single scream cut through the wind, and before anyone could move, Jake ran toward danger with nothing but pure kindness in his heart. People froze as he reached the millionaire's fragile daughter, just seconds before disaster struck. No one knew this moment would uncover a family secret so shocking it could break everything wide open. Michael Grant was known across Los Angeles as a powerful millionaire and a respected CEO, a man who built his empire with sharp decisions and unshakable discipline. But those who looked closer noticed something missing: warmth, love, family. His wife had passed away years ago, leaving him alone with his fragile daughter, Lily, whose health had grown weaker with time. Inside that huge mansion, the hallways felt cold, despite the expensive paintings and shining marble floors. Lily spent most days in her room, curled under blankets, tired from constant doctor visits and treatments. She wanted friends, laughter, and normal life, but her world had become one long quiet day after another. Even her smile felt faint, like she was afraid it might break. Downstairs, Sarah worked quietly as the housemaid. She was gentle and patient, a single mother doing everything she could to provide for her son, Jake. She never complained, but her tired eyes showed the years of struggle she carried. Every morning before sunrise, she rode 2 buses to reach the mansion, then hurried back home after work to check on Jake and make sure he had homework help, dinner, and a little warmth before bed. Their small apartment stood in sharp contrast to Michael's world. The walls were cracked, the heating often broke, and the table wobbled from years of use. Still, the place felt alive. Jake always made it brighter, helping neighbors, fixing small things, sharing whatever little he had. He didn't see himself as poor. He just saw himself as someone who needed to be there for his mom. Jake often waited for Sarah outside the mansion when school ended. He'd sit on the edge of the long driveway, reading old comic books or helping the gardener carry tools. Lily sometimes noticed him from her window. She wondered what it felt like to live so freely, to run, to laugh, to not be trapped inside a world of rules and medicines. Michael barely knew Jake existed. To him, Jake was just the maid's son. His mind was always filled with meetings, deals, and numbers. He believed money could fix most things, but even with all his wealth, he couldn't fix his daughter's fragile health or the loneliness she carried. One evening, Sarah arrived late. She looked pale, hiding a folded hospital bill deep inside her purse. Another medical issue, another expense she couldn't afford. Jake saw her trembling hands, but she simply whispered, "It'll be fine. Let's just get home." Still, something inside him tightened. He knew it wasn't fine at all. That same night, Lily felt restless and wandered outside despite instructions to stay indoors. She stepped toward the path near the steep driveway. Her legs shook, her breathing turned weak. She tried to call for help, but no one heard her, except Jake. He looked up and froze. Lily was moments away from danger, and Jake realized he was the only one close enough to reach her if he ran now. The moment he took that first step, everything in their lives quietly shifted, but no one knew why. Jake didn't think. He just ran. Lily's weak body tilted near the edge of the steep driveway. One more wobble, and she would fall hard onto the stone path below. Her eyes widened with fear, her voice barely a whisper. The wind drowned out every sound, but Jake understood instantly. She needed help right now. His shoes slapped against the pavement as he sprinted toward her. The gardener shouted, but Jake didn't slow down. He pushed harder, leaping forward and grabbing Lily's arm, just as her knees buckled. She collapsed against him, trembling, breath thin and shaky. For a moment, the entire mansion staff froze. Then someone gasped, The CEO will panic if he sees this. But Jake didn't care who panicked. He only cared that Lily was still breathing. "Hey, you're okay," he whispered softly, holding her up until her legs steadied a little. Lily blinked up at him. Her voice shook. "You came." "Of course I did," he said simply. Anyone would. But in her world, no one ever reached her this fast. No one ever moved toward her without fear. And no one had ever spoken to her with that warm, steady tone. Like she mattered. Footsteps thundered across the driveway. Michael rushed toward them, tension slicing through the air. His breathing was heavy, his face pale. For the first time in years, the powerful Millionaire CEO looked terrified. He reached Lily and pulled her into his arms. "Lily, are you hurt? Talk to me." "I'm okay," she whispered faintly. "Jake helped me." Michael turned sharply toward the boy. Jake stepped back, out of respect, wiping dirt from his hands, unsure what a man like Michael would say. Most rich people ignored him, or looked through him, like he was invisible. But this time, Michael didn't look away. His voice trembled. "You saved her." Jake nodded shyly. "I just did what anyone should." "Not anyone," Michael said quietly. There was something strange in his eyes. Curiosity, confusion, maybe even recognition. Sarah rushed down the path, breathless and horrified. "Jake, oh my God, what happened? Are you okay? Lily, sweetheart, are you hurt?" Lily shook her head. "He saved me." Sarah's heart dropped. She stared at Jake with a mix of pride and fear. She knew helping was the right thing, but she also knew the wealthy world didn't always reward kindness. Sometimes it punished it. Michael studied Sarah, something unsettled in his expression. His gaze lingered on her necklace, an old, worn locket she had never taken off. His eyes narrowed, as if the sight of it disturbed him in some way he couldn't explain. "You," he whispered, before stopping himself. Sarah clutched the locket protectively, suddenly uneasy. Before anyone could ask questions, Lily swayed again. Jake reacted instantly and reached to steady her, but Michael gently caught her first. "Let's get her inside," Michael said, trying to sound composed, but his voice cracked, exposing the fear underneath. They walked toward the mansion, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken questions. Jake followed because Sarah insisted he stay close, but every staff member stared at him with wide, suspicious eyes. Some grateful, others clearly bothered that a maid's son had become the unexpected hero of the day. Inside, Michael ordered the staff to bring blankets, warm water, everything Lily needed. But as Lily rested on the large sofa, her small fingers searched for something. Someone. "Jake, stay," she whispered. The entire staff went silent. Even Michael froze. A fragile request from the millionaire's daughter to the maid's son. Michael looked at Jake again. There was something about the boy that unsettled him deeply. The shape of his face, his eyes, his calm bravery. Something familiar. Something he could almost place, but not quite. "Let him stay," Michael finally said, surprising everyone. Sarah stiffened. Jake swallowed nervously. Lily smiled weakly. But as Jake stepped closer to Lily, something else slid from his pocket. A folded slip of paper he had found earlier that day while cleaning up around Sarah's dresser. It drifted onto the floor, landing right at Michael's feet. Michael bent down and picked it up. His hands froze. It wasn't just any paper. It was a hospital document. An old one. A date. A name. A name that should not have been connected to Sarah or Jake. Michael's breath stopped. "What is this?" he whispered. Sarah's face turned white. Jake didn't even know how to answer. And for the first time that evening, the fear in Michael's eyes wasn't just for his da. It was for the truth he might be about to uncover. Jake didn't hesitate. The moment he saw Lily's small body sway near the edge of the steep driveway, He sprinted forward with everything he had. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the entrance of the mansion, but all Jake could see was the fear on Lily's face as her foot slipped on the polished stone. "Hold on," he shouted. Lily's knees buckled. She barely had time to gasp before she began falling forward. Jake lunged, catching her just in time. His arms wrapped around her fragile frame, steadying her before she could hit the hard ground. Her breathing came out shaky and uneven as she clung to him, eyes wide with shock. For a second, the world stood still. Two housekeepers at the doorway froze mid-step. The gardener dropped his tools. A driver stared, mouth open. "The CEO will panic if he sees this," one whispered sharply, but Jake didn't hear any of them. He focused only on Lily, who was trembling like she had been holding fear inside for far too long. "You're safe," he said softly. "Don't worry, I got you." Lily blinked up at him, surprised that someone, especially a boy she barely knew, had reached her so fast. "Why? Why did you come?" "Because you needed help," he replied simply. Simple words, but they hit harder than anything in her lonely world. Heavy footsteps thundered across the driveway. Michael Grant rushed toward them, his face drained of all color. The usually composed Millionaire CEO looked like a man watching his world fall apart. He wrapped his arms protectively around Lily, examining her like he expected to find bruises or fresh wounds. "Lily, are you hurt? Are you dizzy? Why were you outside alone?" His voice cracked through every question. "I'm okay," she whispered weakly. "Jake, he helped me." Michael's eyes lifted sharply to the boy. Jake stepped back instinctively. ... He didn't expect gratitude from a rich man. He expected trouble. But instead of anger, Michael looked stunned. "You saved her," he said quietly. Jake nodded, unsure how to respond. "I just did what anyone should." Michael shook his head slightly. Not everyone would have. Just then, Sarah ran up the driveway, breathless. "Lily, Jake, what happened?" Her gaze bounced between her son, Lily, and the terrified look on Michael's face. "He helped her," Lily said again, this time louder, as if she wanted everyone to hear it. Sarah's heart swelled with pride, but fear quickly followed. Wealthy families didn't always welcome the involvement of people like her. She gently touched Jake's shoulder, afraid someone might twist the situation against them. Michael's gaze shifted to Sarah, lingering on her worn locket, the one she never took off. His brows tightened, confusion flickering across his face, as if something about it bothered him, or sparked a memory he had tried to fall. "Let's get Lily inside," he said. His voice held authority, but also something else, unease. They moved into the mansion. Staff rushed around with blankets and warm drinks, but Lily kept glancing toward Jake. "Please stay," she whispered. Everyone froze. Again. Michael looked at his daughter, then at Jake. After a tense pause, he nodded. "Stay. For now." Jake stood awkwardly near the sofa while Lily rested. Sarah hovered close, unsure of what might happen next. For the first time, the mansion didn't feel like a distant world. It felt alive with tension, curiosity, and a strange pull none of them understood. Then, as Jake shifted his weight, something slid out of his pocket and fell onto the floor near Michael's feet. A folded paper. Michael picked it up without thinking. His expression changed instantly. It wasn't a school note, not a shopping list. It was an old hospital document, a date, a ward number, and a name, one Michael never expected to see connected to Sarah or her. His voice dropped to a cold whisper. "Why do you have this?" Sarah froze. Jake looked completely confused. Lily watched, frightened by the sudden tension. And in that moment, the air in the mansion turned sharp with a truth none of them were prepared to face. Michael stood frozen, holding the faded hospital paper between his fingers. The busy mansion suddenly felt silent, as though every worker sensed something was wrong. Sarah stepped forward slowly, her hands trembling, despite her best attempt to look calm. Jake looked between them, confused and tense, unsure why a single piece of paper seemed to shake the powerful Millionaire CEO. "I can explain," Sarah whispered. Michael's jaw tightened. "Then explain." But before she could speak, Lily began coughing, soft at first, then harder. The sudden sound shifted everyone's attention. Jake rushed to her side without hesitation, gently rubbing her back, whispering for her to breathe slowly. Michael watched, struck by how naturally Jake understood Lily's fear, how effortlessly he calmed her. It was something Michael himself struggled to do. The doctor arrived minutes later, assuring them it was only stress, not a medical emergency. But the tension in the mansion did not ease. Word of the incident spread quickly among the staff, and whispers followed Sarah as she moved through the hallways. Some looked at her with worry, others with suspicion, as if she had crossed an invisible line. "People like us don't get involved with families like theirs," one staff member murmured to another. "It never ends well." Sarah heard it, Jake heard it, and the weight of those judgmental words settled heavily on them both. Later that evening, Michael asked Sarah to speak with him privately. His tone was not angry, just guarded, controlled, as if he was bracing himself for an answer he wasn't sure he wanted. "Where did this hospital record come from?" he asked, placing the paper on a table between them. Sarah swallowed hard. "I found it years ago. I kept it for Jake. I didn't want him growing up without knowing the truth about where he came from." Michael's eyes narrowed. "Why would his origin matter to me?" She hesitated, long enough for fear to show. "Because the name on that record is connected to your family." A flicker of shock crossed Michael's face, but he quickly masked it. "That's impossible." Sarah shook her head. "I never meant for you to find out like this." Before he could respond, Jake appeared in the doorway, breathless. "Mr. Grant, something's wrong. Lily wants to see you." Michael rushed down the hallway. Lily sat up in bed, clutching something in her hand, a small toy horse with chipped paint. She held it out toward him. "Dad, Jake gave me this," she whispered. "He said it used to be his, but I've seen it before." Michael frowned. "You've never met him before today." Lily shook her head. "I saw this toy in one of Mom's old boxes, the one you never open." Michael's heartbeat stumbled. That box had been untouched since the night his wife died. Before he could ask how Lily remembered it, a staff member rushed in, breathless. "Sir, there's someone at the gate, asking for you. They say it's urgent. Something about that hospital document." Sarah's face drained of color. Jake's hands balled into fists. Michael stepped toward the door, each breath heavier than the last. Whoever waited outside might finally expose the truth he had tried to bury for years. A cold tension filled the mansion as Michael walked toward the front entrance. His steps were slow, controlled, but his heartbeat felt like it was shaking the walls. Jake and Sarah followed a few steps behind, unable to stay still. Lily remained in her room, clutching the small toy horse like it carried the answers to everything. At the front gate stood an elderly woman in a hospital uniform, holding a worn folder tight against her chest. The guard looked unsettled, as if he wasn't sure whether to let her speak or turn her away. But the moment she saw Michael, her eyes softened with the weight of recognition. "Mr. Grant, I worked in the neonatal unit the year your daughter was born," she said quietly. "And I wept the night another child was brought in, a baby boy. There was confusion, a switch in records. I've carried this for years." Sarah stiffened. Jake felt his stomach twist. Michael's voice lowered to a dangerous whisper. "What are you saying?" The woman opened the folder with trembling fingers. Inside were 2 matching dates, 2 babies, 2 families, and a note written in fading ink. "I believe your son didn't survive that night," she said gently. but another child did. A boy who was never claimed. His records were mixed with yours. I believe that boy was hers. She nodded toward Sarah. Michael's breath caught. A lifetime of buried grief suddenly slammed into him, breaking through every wall he had built. No, no, I buried my son. I held. His voice broke. Sarah felt tears burn her eyes. Jake looked at Michael, something painful and uncertain rising inside him. The nurse stepped closer. I shouldn't have waited this long, but I knew one day the truth would demand to be seen. Michael staggered back, gripping the gate for support. Jake instinctively moved toward Lily's room, as though drawn by something he didn't understand. Sarah turned to Michael, voice trembling. I never hid Jake from you. I didn't know he was... Michael lifted a shaking hand. Not now. I can't. His voice cracked completely. Then a scream ripped through the mansion. It was Lily. Michael ran, heart in his throat, Jake right behind him. Staff scrambled, panic filling the halls. When they reached her door, Lily was gasping for air, clutching her chest, the toy horse on the floor beside her. Dad, I can't breathe, she whispered. Michael froze in pure terror, and Jake stepped forward like he had done this before. Jake didn't waste a second. He slid to Lily's side, speaking calmly, even as the room spun with panic. Lily, look at me. Slow breaths. You're okay. I'm right here. Michael hovered helplessly, trembling. The powerful CEO who controlled boardrooms, investors, entire industries, now stood powerless beside his daughter. His hands shook so badly he couldn't even steady her pillow. Jake gently lifted Lily's head, placing it in his lap. Follow my breathing, he whispered, inhaling and exhaling slowly until her panicked gasps began to settle. Her heartbeat eased. Color slowly returned to her cheeks. Michael stared stunned. How did you do that? His voice cracked with disbelief and something deeper. Fear, awe, maybe even love. Jake swallowed hard. I used to help my mom when she got panic attacks. I just learned. Sarah pressed a hand to her mouth, tears slipping free. The nurse stood in the doorway, watching quietly. You see, she whispered, kindness is stronger than fear and stronger than wealth. Michael looked at Jake, really looked at him. The courage, the gentleness, the instinct to comfort. Things he remembered from his late wife. Things he thought he lost forever. Jake, he said softly, voice unsteady, if what the nurse said is true, then you're... A name I warned the hospital about decades ago, someone connected to your business. At that moment, the mansion's main phone rang sharply. Once, twice, 3 times. The butler rushed in. Sir, you need to take this. They said it's about the hospital files. Michael's expression hardened, not with anger, but with a new, frightening clarity. He reached for the phone. Jake held his breath. Sarah whispered a prayer. The nurse stepped back, and Michael lifted the receiver, unsure whether the voice on the other end would confirm the truth or threaten to destroy everything he had just begun to reclaim. Michael didn't speak at first. He simply listened to the voice on the other end of the line, stern, rattled, and desperate. The caller tried to convince him that the hospital documents were mistaken, that digging into the past would destroy reputations, that this truth did not benefit anyone. But Michael no longer feared the truth. He had lived too long in Shah. He ended the call with a steady voice. The only thing that destroys a family is hiding what matters. The nurse stepped closer. So, what will you do, Mr. Grant? Michael looked at Jake, really saw him. The bravery, the gentleness, the heart that saved Lily twice. The same quiet strength his late wife once carried. He breathed deeply, as if settling something inside himself for the first time in years. I'm done living behind walls, he said. I'm choosing honesty, I'm choosing kindness, and I'm choosing family. whatever form it comes in. Sarah lowered her head, tears falling. Jake stared at the floor, unsure if he had the right to hope. Michael placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. Jake, I don't know exactly what the hospital mixed up, but I do know this. Whether you were meant to be part of my family by blood or by fate, you belong here, and I want to be here for you. Jake's voice cracked. Are you sure? I don't want to replace anyone. I just wanted everyone to be okay. You aren't replacing anyone, Michael said softly. You're helping us heal. Lily slowly sat up in her bed, still gripping the small toy horse. Her voice was barely a whisper. Jake, I want you to stay with us. He walked to her side, and she placed the horse in his hand. Mom kept this for a reason, she said. Maybe she knew. You were part of our story. Michael gently wrapped an arm around Lily and Jake, pulling them closer in a quiet, trembling embrace. Sarah watched from the doorway, her hand over her heart. For the first time, the mansion didn't feel cold. It felt like a home, beginning to breathe again. The dining room looked different now, not because the furniture changed, but because laughter filled the space. Lily was healthier, stronger, smiling more than anyone had seen in years. Jake sat beside her, helping her with a small puzzle. Michael and Sarah set dishes on the table, simple food, but served with warmth. Michael had officially requested the hospital conduct a thorough investigation. The final judgment arrived just 1 week later. Records were switched. Jake had been misidentified at birth. He was, by all official and medical evidence, Michael's biological son. There were tears, disbelief, relief, and finally, peace. Sarah feared Michael would take Jake away from her, but he refused. You raised him, he told her. You gave him the kindness this house was missing. We share him now, not by law, but by love. Jake kept both families. Lily gained a brother. Sarah gained stability. Michael gained a reason to breathe again. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Jake placed the toy horse on the mantel, a symbol of two lives that were meant to cross, a reminder of heartbreak turned into hope. Michael rested a hand on Jake's shoulder. You saved my daughter, he said, but you also save. And just like that, the house that once echoed with loneliness finally felt full. Full of life, full of second chances, full of the family they never expected, but always needed. A maid's son. Saving a millionaire's daughter was the last thing anyone ever expected. But on one stormy night in California, a young boy named Jake did something so brave, so powerful, that every person standing near the billionaire CEO's mansion stopped in shock. A single scream cut through the wind, and before anyone could move, Jake ran toward danger with nothing but pure kindness in his heart. People froze as he reached the millionaire's fragile daughter, just seconds before disaster struck. No one knew this moment would uncover a family secret so shocking, it could break everything wide open. Michael Grant was known across Los Angeles as a powerful millionaire and a respected CEO, a man who built his empire with sharp decisions and unshakable discipline.